Welcome once again to Auto Mundial, the weekly home of all the latest motoring news and reviews. This week, Chevrolet shows there could be an electric future to the NASCAR Cup Series.
We've also got the return of the Volvo estate to UK shores.
Plus, BMW shows what an electric M3 could look like, neon wheels and all.
That's all coming up. First though, the news.
From parking and lane keeping assist to full-on autopilot driving modes, self-driving tech is growing within the car industry at an exponential rate. But Italian manufacturer Maserati has taken things to a new level by setting the autonomous driving speed record with a highly modified version of its MC20 supercar. Taking to the Kennedy Space Center runway in Florida as part of the Indy Autonomous Challenge was an MC20 redeveloped by the performance division of Artificial Intelligence Driving Autonomous team at Politecnico Milan. Guided by cameras, radars and sensors and piloted by the so-called robo-driver, the supercar reached 197.7 miles per hour without the help of a human on board. From the record run, the team behind it hoped to better understand vehicle dynamics at higher speeds and better inform its artificial intelligence on how to drive safely all the way to the 200-mile mark.
With roaring V8s, plenty of power and sleek yet aggressive designs, the Ford Mustang and Chevrolet Camaro are obvious entrants to America's favourite form of motorsport, NASCAR. What isn't such an obvious challenger to the oval racing series is this, the Chevrolet Blazer, an all-electric SUV with, in most cases, around 300 brake horsepower. It may have dynamic, even sporty looks with a mean front end, but this is very much a family-friendly commuter. This, however, is not. Say hello to the Chevrolet Blazer EVR NASCAR, a prototype showing that the very art of driving round literal circles for hours on end may well have a future in a gas-free world. Much like the Camaro that Chevy fields in this year's NASCAR Cup Series, this Blazer prototype sits on the standard NASCAR next-gen chassis and sports a totally scratch-built body with a resemblance to the all-electric Blazer road car. Though the similarities end on the surface, as this model doesn't even get doors or lights. You do look so much cooler jumping in through the window after all. Replacing what is a 5.9-litre V8 in competition NASCAR is a trio of electric motors totaling a brain-frying 1,300 brake horsepower. Just like a V8 needs a lot of fuel, the Blazer's powertrain needs plenty of juice, and so it gets a 78 kilowatt-hour battery sporting newly developed liquid-cooled tech that Chevy will be looking to implement onto its road-going products in the near future. Certainly an impressive bit of kit. We're not sure that the petrol-chugging fans of the NASCAR Cup Series are quite ready for a field of electric crossovers racing for top honours at the Daytona 500. But it's good to know that when motorsport does eventually go all electric, celebratory victory donuts will still be able to replenish the planet's cloud supply.
After culling its lineup of all non-SUV products in the summer of 2023, last year saw Volvo make a complete U-turn on its decision as the Swedish manufacturer reintroduced the V60 and V90 in estate form. As fans of a boxy roofline and spacious boot, the news certainly put smiles on our faces, but untouched since the model's initial launch in 2018, the V60 is far from a spring chicken. Well, despite its age, the Swedish mid-size estate is nothing if not a looker. Pairing a purposeful front end with a sleek body, this Swedish supermodel will eat most of its rivals for breakfast when it comes to style. Jump inside and it is another story altogether. Where the majority of the industry has ploughed forward with gigantic dual displays that cut costs on instrument cluster designs for individual models, the V60 gets a very Volvo and very small central infotainment display and secondary driver screen under an outdated bezel. That being said, since hitting the market some 7 years ago, newer models have received integrated Google built-in infotainment software, replacing the manufacturer's own tech. Not only is this our preferred operating system on the market, but the old-timey design appears far less slapdash than more recent creations. With its estate body style, you can rest assured that the V60 gets a very spacious boot, perfect for longer objects, whilst rear passenger room is perfectly adequate for most. The longer wheelbase V90 will offer greater rear luxury, but for most families you needn't splash the extra cash. Where its larger sibling gets just 2 plug-in hybrid powertrain options, the V60 is available with a choice of 3 engines as a mild hybrid joins the fray. At the entry point is the £41,000 B4 with its 197 brake horsepower of mild hybrid goodness from a 2-litre 4-cylinder. If 44 mpg is not enough for you, the T6 and T8 are a pair of plug-in hybrids using that same engine as a base, good for 350 and 455 brake horsepower respectively, both pumping out impressive fuel economy figures. However, they do bump the price up to the £50,000 mark, which does make it a pricey model.
So if you fancy yourself a spacious cabin with good exterior looks for a slightly cheaper price, might we suggest the £37,000 Škoda Superb. In estate form, it sits somewhere between Volvo's V60 and V90 in length, making it a more spacious car inside for passengers. Meanwhile, those aboard this Czech family car will enjoy a nicely put together cabin with a slightly fresher design, incorporating more of the styling cues we see today. So if you enjoy freestanding, oversized screens obstructing your view, this is the car for you. Where Volvo gets integrating Google infotainment software, Škoda has its own operating system, which, whilst phone connectivity will help you avoid most of its clunkiness, is not among our favourite menus to navigate. Moreover, this executive estate's budget nature does shine through by placing the likes of leather trim, LED matrix headlights and electronically adjustable seats behind a paywall, things Volvo owners get off the bat. Under the bonnet, the Superb gets one of 5 engine offerings with 2 petrols, 2 diesels and a plug-in hybrid on offer, ranging from 147 to 260 brake horsepower. Whilst not the most powerful model on the market, it does allow it to achieve commendable fuel economy figures of 54 miles per gallon, even in wheezy petrol form. Overall, with its better looks in our opinion and more potent powertrains, the Volvo is the car you want. But offering greater space and practicality, all for a cheaper price, the Škoda is the one you should probably buy. Either way, the Volvo estate is back on sale on UK shores, and that we feel is something to appreciate.
After the break, will Alpine's upcoming A390 sporty SUV be enough to topple the mighty Porsche Macan?
Welcome back. Coming up, is this the future of the Bavarian Super Saloon?
Blatantly pairing the standard Stellantis crossover eCMP platform with a few recognisable Jeep styling cues, the Jeep Avenger has always felt like a model making too many concessions in the name of fitting the crossover class, to the point of losing the key essence of the Jeep name. However, the American off-roading specialist manufacturer seems to have heard our cries and have brought out this. Sporting robust trim pieces and bolstering, the North Face edition represents not only a minor facelift for the Avenger, it also highlights the addition of Jeep's most capable powertrain, the 4xe. Pairing a 1.2-litre turbo with a pair of 21 kilowatt electric motors, one on each axle, the Avenger 4xe gets all-wheel drive capabilities, 136 brake horsepower and good torque for taking on rough terrain. The range-topping powertrain also lifts the car by 10mm for improved approach angles and wading depths. Moreover, off-road driving modes allow for greater grip on inclines, though locking differentials and more honed-in tools are not present on even this most extreme Avenger. And that's where we once again fall into the same vicious circle with this small model. Despite doing its best to market towards the more outdoorsy crowd, its core platform was never designed to tackle steep tracks and muddy swamps. As such, it will always feel like a compromise, and at the 4xe's starting price of £31,000, we feel an off-roader should be just that.
Coming in some £8,000 less than that is the Dacia Duster in TCE 130 all-wheel drive guise, pairing a 130 brake horsepower engine with a manual gearbox and sending power to all four wheels. This is a family crossover that you'll actually enjoy taking off the beaten track. With its cheaper price tag, the Duster is a car you needn't worry about getting dirty, nor do you fret about clipping its plastic bolstering around the bumper. And even still, with approach and departure angles of over 10 degrees more than the Jeep, you will struggle to scrape the ground away. In addition to its taller stance, the Duster gets a central locking differential for greater grip in its special off-road mode, something the Avenger does not benefit from. The same mode also brings vital information such as lean and pitch angles for the ultimate off-road experience. Pairing nicely with the Duster's capabilities is its rough and ready cabin, which especially in extreme trim features heavy-duty materials and an easy-to-clean design. Space for both front and rear passengers is also more than adequate, whilst the boot gets lots of room for equipment. This is where we point out one thing, however, and that is that the modern crossover consumer is not looking for a rugged off-roader, nor are they looking for muddy fun on the weekends. Instead, interior space and fuel efficiency is what ships examples out the door, something the Jeep does far better.
With its fancier cabin, the Avenger sports all the mod cons you would expect of a family car in 2025 and decorates its interior space with nice upholstery, albeit with a side note of easy-to-clean adventure. And so, if all you fancy is a comfortable family crossover for use on the day-to-day with an edgy design, the more expensive Jeep may well be the car for you.
Late last year at the Paris Motor Show, Alpine unveiled its latest concept, bound for a very un-Alpine market. The A390 drops any sense of the manufacturer's previous lightweight philosophy and instead ventures into the all-electric luxury SUV world. Since presenting in the French capital last year, the French barge's development has progressed quite a bit, moving from the dramatic design concept stage to what is now a functioning prototype. And much like its little sibling, the A290 hot hatch, that means the A390 now gets a chance to frolic in the snow during its cold weather testing. When the covers first lifted on this so-called 5-seat sports car, Alpine provided a set of performance targets for the production version, based on the same platform as the Renault Scenic E-Tech, though with a number of chassis tweaks for a sportier ride. The A390 will get 3 electric motors, 1 on the front axle and 2 on the rear. Based on other Renault Group models, that should equate to around 600 brake horsepower, with the French manufacturer aiming for greater acceleration than the hardcore A110R. As such, you should expect a sub-4 second 0 to 60 time, though we doubt that will be possible on this slippery surface. 600 all-wheel drive brake horsepower in a high-riding SUV from a sporty manufacturer. Sound familiar?
Well, with the A390, Alpine very clearly has its eyes set on one target and one target only, and that is the Porsche Macan. Launched last year, the newly electrified SUV is available in a number of denominations, but best rivaling the incoming French contender is the turbo variant. Currently sitting at the Macan tree, this certainly not turbocharged version gets 630 brake horsepower in overboost mode, with a pair of electric motors typically providing 585 brake horsepower. That means it will 0 to 60 in 3.3 seconds and reach 161 miles per hour at full chat. The whole thing is powered by a 100 kilowatt-hour battery sporting an 800-volt architecture, meaning shorter recharging times, better temperature management, and by extension greater range over the more widely used 400-volt alternative. In fact, the Macan shares the same platform as the Taycan, developed in conjunction with Audi for the e-tron GT and all-electric Q6. With its more developed technology, the Macan in hot turbo spec will still achieve over 360 miles on a charge, with 10 to 80% charging times of just 20 minutes. Since it first hit the market, however, the Macan name has never been about providing sporty dynamics to the SUV world, instead giving those in search of comfort access to the Porsche name. And so the electric Macan does get an extra 10 centimetres or so to the wheelbase over the Alpine, making for a more spacious cabin. Inside you will find a family-friendly space with good head and legroom all round, plus a fancy cabin design. You won't find lazy screen integration here, as the dashboard fits all the tech you could ever need, nice and snug, whilst the whole thing is coated in top quality materials, giving the car a sporty feel, albeit whilst offering comfort.
Based on the development timeline of Alpine's other incoming all-electric model, we doubt we'll be seeing the A390 on UK shores for at least another year, and so pricing is far from confirmed. That means that the £97,000 Porsche Macan Turbo gets a bit of a head start for the next few months. But a smaller, potentially nimbler package, we look forward to seeing how the Alpine fares when it does eventually reach production.
A few years ago, back in 2023, BMW unveiled its vision of the future for its lineup of executive saloons. Dubbed the Neue Klasse, this low-slung and sleek design will reportedly pave the way for the future of BMW models like the 3 and 5 Series. With a far more attractive kidney grille than the more recent models, an aerodynamic shape and large windows, we can definitely imagine this being a popular look when it hits consumer markets. But with very little in the way of kicks, flicks and other such aggressive bits and bobs, we do wonder how this new styling approach will translate to the sportier M cars. Well, wonder no more, as the Bavarians have the answer for everything it seems, as this is the Vision DX. Standing for driving experience, it's an all-electric vision of the future focused on providing an exciting and thrilling time behind the steering wheel, and on paper, it sounds like it will do just that. This no-holds-barred take on the Neue Klasse gets a staggering 1,300 brake horsepower from a grand total of 4 electric motors, though that isn't the jaw-dropping figure here. In fact, the Vision DX's quartet of motors produce a whopping 13,269 pound-feet of torque. That's 10 times more than most lorries. though luckily that figure will never be available in the supposed M3 that this concept will end up spawning. Instead, BMW is using it to test its new driver-focused control system that it's calling the Heart of Joy. The new system will reportedly enable its performance cars to handle large power figures and heavy chassis, all whilst making for an enthusiastic handling model and dramatically improving powertrain efficiency. Failing that, it seems that strapping a few lights to the wheels will suffice at attracting petrolheads. Over the now 2-year-old Neue class, this sporty concept does get the odd styling tweak aside from those odd LEDs, showing what a next-generation M3 would look like. From a chunky front splitter to aggressive side skirts and wide hips, this design does leave us excited for the final product.
Next time on an anniversary special episode of Auto Mundial, the Bugatti VEYRON turns 20.